Welcome to the Digital Maddy Show. This is a platform where I share my knowledge on video creation, how to generate organic traffic, and how to make sales through video making. I also invite many influencers and digital marketers on the show and ask amazing questions to extract their secrets of business. Let's get started with your host. Hi, my name is Mithyl and I'm a YouTube and video creation coach, and I help aspiring video influencers to generate organic traffic and make sales through video making. Today we have an awesome guest on our show. She is a hardcore content creator coach. She is already into the studio. Let's welcome her. So let's welcome on the show an amazing person. Let me introduce her. She is Gwendolyn Gay. She is a content creation strategist and coach. She teaches her system for creating consistent content for multiple platforms is less than 2 hours a month. Awesome. Before starting her company, Simplified Content, Gwendolyn hosted a large tech channel and live national television. When she is not teaching content strategy, she is going on adventures with her husband of 11 years and 2 preschoolers. Awesome. So let's welcome Gwendolyn to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Most welcome, Gwendolyn. So let me ask you one of my favorite questions. Can you share one of your favorite quote or a line that motivates you on a daily basis?
For me, and as of this year, my word of the year is alignment. And so one of the quotes that really motivates me on a daily basis is you get what you focus on. And so when I find myself in a space where I think I don't have enough time because my kids are home now and my husband's home now, that's what I'm going to keep seeing in my life, is that I'm not going to have enough time. So focusing on the positive in my life and focusing on the time that I do have. I have as much, time as anyone else, you get what you focus on. That's something that really keeps me aligned with what I should be working on.
Awesome. In fact, based on this quote itself, we also play sometimes a game in a car where we have to spot maybe a yellow car or maybe a blue car, and that's where the entire focus goes, and that's where you have to find and you get the points. Awesome. So, wow. Gwendolyn, can you share your backstory, please?
Sure. So I am very much an introvert, someone who was painfully shy all the way up through high school and into when I started college. I had someone approach me about going into speech and debate, and I just laughed at them. That did not sound fun to me as an introvert. I didn't want to speak in front of people, especially not to be judged on my speaking skills. But it was something that I auditioned for, I went out for, and I ended up doing really well at, and decided to pursue communications as a degree and public speaking. But I didn't want to read the news. I didn't want to be a journalist. I didn't want to be a lawyer necessarily. So what was I going to do with this career as a communication specialist? And so I looked up hosting, television hosting, and that just zinged with me. I loved it. So I went into television hosting and I did some live national television spots. And then I moved into hosting for YouTube channels. I was on a large YouTube channel called I Fix It out in California. And I taught people how to repair their electronic devices. So like how to open their phones and change out the battery and stuff like that. And I loved every minute of it and loved hosting. I fell in love with YouTube. I started that back in 2012 or 13 and got to know the platform really, really well. And then I started having kids and so I decided to go into business for myself so I could make my own time. And of course that brought its own challenges working at home with kids. And that's where I am today. So.
Cool. That's a nice story. So as you say, Gwendolyn, you are into content creation business. So what did you do before starting your business?
So as I said, YouTube was really what I fell in love with. I was already hosting and I was really seen as the on-camera person. I did a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff with content creation, but I didn't film, I didn't edit. We had a studio with amazing equipment. So there was a lot that I didn't have to do as a normal YouTuber. Normally YouTubers have their own equipment, they're filming themselves, they're editing themselves, and they're doing all the things. So my introduction into YouTube was really me just being on camera and writing my scripts, and that was pretty much it. But in my time there, I was there for over 4 years, and I learned a lot about the algorithm. I learned a lot about what worked and what didn't work, what made things viral, and a lot about the platform itself. So when I decided to start my own business, I didn't immediately go into content creation. I first started as a service provider helping YouTubers run their channels. So I was a channel management specialist. So I would do everything but film. So they'd film themselves and they'd give me the files. We would edit them. We would optimize them, do the tags, titles, descriptions, all the thumbnails. We did all the back end part of YouTube. And so that was kind of the lead in. And then I found myself in a place where taking on service providers, I couldn't keep up with my own content. So that led me to figuring out how to create content for myself while also providing service to others. And that's what led into where I am now.
Cool, that's awesome. So what's your system for consistent content creation?
Right. So like I said, it was very difficult for me as a service provider with kids, but I saw other people doing it and I knew it was possible. And so when I would look to gurus like Gary Vee or Amy Porterfield or Jasmine Star, all these people that were creating content all the time and had a certain strategy, I realized they didn't have kids, at least not young kids, or they weren't the main provider for those kids. And so while those strategies are awesome and amazing, and I think people should really take them to heart because they do work, it didn't fit into my own life. So I decided that I needed to find out a way that it would work for me. So my consistent content creation strategy is really a mixture of organizing, outsourcing, repurposing, batching, and accountability. And when I was able to combine all of those pieces, all 5 of those pieces for the system, it was something that allowed me to create consistent content creation with only 2 hours a month of work, which is something I can fit into my life.
Awesome. So is it really 2 hours? Like people go crazy creating content and they just get stuck in the process itself. So we would love to know more about it. Awesome. So why is consistent content creation so important? I love this question.
Well, as you know, consistent content creation is there's a huge difference between content creation and consistent content creation. With consistency, you're showing that you're trustworthy to your audience. You're showing that you can show up for them and provide value for them all the time, not just when it's convenient for you. So that person that is really valuing your content and consuming it will eventually turn into someone who will pay you for your services. It's just a natural progression, and that may possibly happen if you're not consistent, but it's far less possible. When you are consistently showing up for people, the number one reason I tell people is because you're building that know, like, and trust factor. And that trust factor is completely broken down if you can't show up consistently. But the second reason is really the internet works so fast, especially for platforms like Instagram and TikTok and even YouTube. There's hundreds of thousands of content creators uploading all the time. And if you are not consistently uploading, you will get lost. That means when you do finally do an upload or a post on Facebook or something, it will get lost because engagement is what tells the algorithm that your content needs to be seen by a certain person. And if you don't have content to engage with, they're never going to see what you have when you finally do decide to post. So consistency is really the name of the game. And if you can consistently post for a long period of time, you will see growth. You will see people wanting to pay you for your services or your products, whatever it may be, whatever industry you're in. If you are consistently creating valuable content, you will make money.
Cool. Yes, consistency is the key and execution is the idea. Awesome. So, Gwendolyn, what led you to create this system?
Right. So I knew that in my head. I knew consistency was the key. It was kind of like, I get that. That's great. But that's impossible when you have two kids, and my kids weren't school age. So they were toddlers. I had a 1 and 2-year-old when I started my business, and no consistent childcare. And they couldn't go to preschool. They weren't old enough. So while consistency was key, it was something that I didn't value over providing great service to my clients. So they were paying me. Tiny humans needed to stay alive. So those were the most important things in my life. And I did not prioritize my own content, which led me to a place where my consistent client that was a monthly retainer client, one of my biggest accounts, couldn't work with me anymore. So I lost one of my biggest accounts, and I could not make money. I had one-off clients, but I didn't have that consistent income that I had counted on for a long time. And I look at my accounts and I realize I hadn't posted in over 6 months. It was a time in my life when there was a lot going on personally, a lot going on professionally. I was taking on one-off clients, and I had to drop what I had to drop, what didn't fit into my life, and that was content, which meant that when the time came when I needed a client, I didn't have anyone, and no one knew who I was or what I was doing. So that's why I had to create a system that would work in my life. I remember when I first started out, I had all this pressure because I came from such a big channel, and I thought that people expected this level of, awesomeness on video when I no longer had a studio. I no longer had a videographer. I didn't have an editor anymore. It was really all on me. So I was taking over a week to create one piece of content, much less I didn't repurpose it. It was really only my YouTube channel that I was trying to build. And with 2 kids at home, I could only film at night, which meant I had to deal with lighting problems and all the things that you have to deal with, and noise problems when they were awake. So it got to the point where I would cry because I didn't know how I could keep this up. And so I didn't do it. So that's what led me to this. There has to be an easier way, and I can't create content and just post the day that I create content. So I had to find a way to really add in batching and repurposing in a way that could work with my life.
Cool. So first of all, thank you, Gwendolyn, for sharing this system to us. So can you share a few quick tips of how to get started with this system?
Yes. So one of the things that I think people struggle with the most is topics. And when you are not able to consistently create content, when you do finally have a burst of, inspiration and you decide to post, sometimes it's not very in line with your message, or, it's sporadic, especially if you're on multiple platforms. So you're posting something on Facebook, but it's something completely different over on Instagram. So a way to keep your message cohesive, as well as make sure that you always have something to talk about and that is in line with your business goals and the strategies and the things that you want to get accomplished in your own business, is to come up with a content plan. So I teach people how to create their content plan for the whole year in just one day. So all my topics that I talk about on my channel, on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, my email, subscribers, everything is planned out a year in advance. I have all my themes and topics together, and that means when I am able to outsource something, they're on the same plan that I'm on, and every platform is talking about the same thing. So my message is always cohesive and not watered down. So the number one thing that you should do is plan as far in advance as you can with your themes and topics.
Wow. Thank you so much, Gwendolyn, for sharing so much awesome value. So hats off for that. So Gwendolyn, all the people who are listening to this particular episode, and if you want to know and learn more from you, is there a platform where they can come to you?
Yeah, so I'm on almost every platform because that's something that I teach. So on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, I am simplified content. So it's just simplified content on all those platforms.
All right. Do you have any course where you can help people out?
Yes. So I have several courses, but the one that I tell everyone to start with is a mini course. And that's the one that I help you plan a year's worth of content in one day. And that's going to be, it's not just topics and themes. It's making sure that it's around the goals that you have for your authority, what you want to build, how many followers you want to have, what brands do you want to be noticed by, so that you can either have brand deals or have collaborations that make sense for your brand to grow your audience, as well as if you're, for instance, a coach, when are your launches? When are you, launching a new service or product or something? So making sure that that's all around the same thing so that you can have 6 weeks or 4 weeks or 3 weeks of excitement built up, so that by the time you open the doors to whatever that product or service is, people are just clamoring to buy it. So planning really far in advance really helps you with your numbers when it comes to that point. So that's the mini course. I also have an academy where it really teaches you the batching and repurposing strategy that I use. But for the most part, I tell people to start with that mini course so that you can't really batch anything if you don't know what you're talking about, right? So starting with those, the mini course, it's called the Content Key Annual Plan.
Wow. So anyone who's listening to this particular episode and are serious action takers, I think you should go to that particular mini course, learn it, and rock the internet. So thank you so much, Gwendolyn, for sharing so much insight to our episode. Since we have come to the end of the episode, would you like to say something to our viewers?
Yes. If you are a service provider or a coach or someone who is taking one-on-one clients and your time seems to be filling up and you think that it's not possible to keep up with your content creation, I am living proof that you can do this with the right strategy. And I would hate for anyone to get to the point where, like me, you get to the point where you realize you haven't posted anything. And that means your audience is just not hearing from you, which means they're not excited about what you have. And when you are ready to sell something, they're not going to be ready to hear what that is. So no matter what your situation is, whether you have kids or not, or you're going through school, or, maybe you have multiple jobs, whatever the case is, I promise you, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Absolutely. The challenges that you had and still you were able to find a roadmap from it. I think if you can do it, anybody can do it. Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. So thank you so much, Gwendolyn, for being on the show. It was an honor.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you are listening to the Digital Maddy Show with your host, Mithyl Dave, and we had an awesome guest, Gwendolyn, who shared a lot of tips about content creation. Do check it out. All the links you can find in the description. So if you're listening to this particular video on YouTube, subscribe to my channel. And if you're listening to my podcast, subscribe to my podcast. Thank you so much, Gwendolyn, once again for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Most welcome.